Brother Michael Darko. I thought your name was like a professional wrestler's name. I actually didn't think that was a real name. I thought it was like a screen name.
Yeah, a lot of people think it's just a nickname, but yeah, it's my surname. I think it's quite good because it can be unique depending on what part of the world, so it's hard to forget.
Well, yeah, it's like YusefWateef is one of those names that when people hear it, there's not going to be too many. I mean, there's you, and then there's like the big Stonehall music.
For some reason, I don't know why you went fuzzy all of a sudden. I'm just going to put my headset on. Maybe
Right on. Sometimes the acoustics go crazy. There you go.
Switch
Is that better?
Yeah.
I can hear you just fine. Now you look like the Michael that had the business calls with me.
Okay. Yeah.
But let's do this. Before I even go into what I brought you in to talk about and kind of why I wanted to bring in somebody who's real current on some important issues that I've been talking about with a lot of people, tell them who you are and where you're from and what you do and why I think uniquely your career is one of the most important careers there really are, and what you do is one of the most important things to do.
Okay, so yeah, as you can see, my name is Michael Darko. I'm from London. I'm born and raised. My heritage is from Ghana, however. I haven't lived in London since 2014. That's when I moved to the Middle East. I was working in investments, and then in 2015, I moved over to be a financial advisor, financial planner. So I did that in the Middle East for a couple of years, and then I moved over to Colombia about 2 years ago now. To continue the same career.
Wow. So how did we meet? I don't even remember.
We met, I think it was first via Facebook. I joined a group about expats in Brazil. Then we started talking over Messenger, and then we had a few conversations when you were looking into getting some insurance.
Right. You know what? I think we ended up, once you told me, you're like, yeah, I've been working, this is the business that I'm in, I was like, oh, you're an insurance man. And whereas most people who don't know the business and don't know what you do, they're like, oh, he's a life insurance person. I was like, oh, that's awesome, because that's part of how I kind of won my freedom out of the United States. Is I did a lot of good service for a lot of good clients in life insurance. And I did a little bit of mutual funds and things like that, but it was largely life insurance. So we ended up really hitting it off. We ended up trading a few books. And what are you reading right now? I'm trying to remember. I gave you, what was the last book we talked about?
Yeah, the last book we spoke about was Influence.
Influence by Dr. Robert Cialdini. You know what I'm going to do is Influence. This is in, let me see. Tell them a little bit about the book while I look it up. I want to show this to the people.
Well, Influence, it was more about how to kind of how two people mutually benefit from a situation, I would say, is the best way to describe it. So how you can provide a service to others and get them to provide a service back to you.
And Influence, often the name makes people think it's something, it's kind of like one of my other favorite books, How to Win Friends and Influence People. They look at it as some kind of a book of hocus pocus and witchcraft and tricks. No, it's how can I do stuff for other people so they will like me, do business with me, and do stuff for me. But they're service manuals, if I can classify them as such. And for anybody who's watching who doesn't have this book, send me a message in the comments below, and I will get you a copy of this book, no problem at all, on me. And I want to be able to give everybody a copy of this book. It's an amazing book. It's just an amazing book.
Definitely. I think that once you read the book, you realize that there's a lot of things that you probably used to do anyway, without actually realizing it, knowing that there was an actual game plan for it. As well as that, sometimes when you find yourself in a position, maybe helping others or going out of your way for others that you wouldn't usually do or that you don't know very well, you realize, oh, wait, it's because they did this and that was a technique in Influence.
Well, I hope everybody that was watching last night when I talked about Brazilians and being Latin, and I hope everybody who popped on when I talked about things like monogamy and non-monogamy, when all the people that pop on for that, I hope that they pop on for this, because there are a lot of misconceptions about life insurance, and let's face it, life insurance is not a sexy topic. The reason that I know the importance of life insurance is because I was in the business, and I was fortunate enough to meet you who's still in the business to bring an authoritative voice, because a lot of people need this information, and I'm going to play the race card. Now, you tell me if this is true on your side of the pond as well. A lot of Black people need this information. Is that true over in your part of the world?
Yeah, I agree. I think that sometimes, the lessons that white people get due to their family always having wealth and knowing how to preserve it is different from the lessons that Black kids learn from home because their parents weren't in that situation or are new to that situation.
And I always say wealth doesn't mean you're driving expensive cars with diamond-studded watches. Wealth simply means you have enough put away so that when one of life's problems hits you, you'll just deal with it.
Yeah, I actually read a quote earlier this week, and it was saying that wealth is actually about the cars that you don't buy, the holidays you don't take, and the houses you don't live in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Uh-oh. BK from the Rockies, thank you. Faithful. I hope you're doing great as well, my brother. So here's the thing. With life insurance, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to play the role of the naysayers, right?
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you what people would tell me. And I want to tell you what some of the people watching this may have heard. And I want to know your typical responses to it, because life insurance is often thought of as, well, life insurance. It means that if you have a lot of money, when you die, your family gets a lot of money to be rich afterwards. Is that a reasonable statement? Your family gets to be rich after you die? Good morning, Unc.
If you set it up that way, then potentially. That's not just what life insurance is, but if you put aside a certain amount of money, or you've got a certain amount of coverage in place specifically for that, and you pay those premiums, then of course that could happen. But I would say more so, more factual, more precisely, life insurance is there for if there's anyone that will suffer financially from you disappearing, you and your paycheck disappearing the next day, then you need life insurance.
So life insurance isn't money designed to bring my loved one back or replace them?
No, not to replace them, but I would say almost make just the loss easier, make it more palatable. You're already grieving, you're already having to make funeral plans. Do you want to add, how are you going to pay the mortgage to that? Do you want to add, now you've got all these debts that we can't afford? Do you want to add, now we need to go and live back with, do you want your wife and kids to have to move back into your in-laws house, for example? That's just making, I'll say, taking out the financial stress out of the situation.
You know what? That's a brilliant comeback. And I think you said it a lot more concisely than I did, because what I would always tell them is, and I may have lost a few clients with my brutality, but I'd be like, no, if your mom or your dad or your son or your daughter, I hope that never happens, are dead, the money's not going to help them. I would tell them, listen, let me tell you what the money does. The money means you get to go home, lock yourself in a room, and cry for as many days or months or years as you might necessarily need to become functional again and adjust to your new reality, because you'll never get over someone you love dying. But you don't need to be sitting in your house crying, trying to figure out what to do with their stuff, or whether or not to even do anything with their stuff. Oh, and by the way, the mortgage is due. By the way, the car note is due. By the way, all those things that you had put aside for later, those still have to be taken care of, because when tax time comes, or when the mortgage comes, when that car note comes, the government doesn't care whether or not you just lost your mom or your dad or one of your kids. No, they're like, pay me.
Exactly.
And you're right, it takes the financial stress out of it. But let me go back into my stereotypical client mode that would come to me. And by the way, I would love when my clients came to me with all kinds of objectives. Objections. Because this Brazilian coffee is, even when you make it at home, this Brazilian coffee is it's savage. Is the coffee in Colombia known for, straightening your mustache out in the morning?
Yeah, you know what? I think that the Colombian coffee is pretty strong, but smooth at the same time. So you don't get that bitter taste, really. I'm not a big coffee drinker. I mean, I think I play into the stereotype there of being British, but I just prefer my tea.
Well, I'm a tea drinker that I got into as far as in living in China. When I lived in China, I started drinking a lot of tea. In Brazil, you can't escape it because coffee is the default setting. Oh, we're going to go talk business? Let's go have some coffee. Oh, hey, I want you to meet my brother. We're going to talk about this jiu-jitsu tournament we're going to. Let's go have some coffee. And the coffee comes in these tiny cups. I'm going to have to do a video about coffee. It comes in these little cups. And as an American, I'm used to these giant cups. Like, this is a home brew where I just made it and I dumbed it down. They actually call it Cafe Americano because they say we put too much water in it when we make it. When you go to the corner to have like a toast in the morning with a coffee, man, I mean, you might have to go change your underwear afterwards. It really punches.
That's strong.
But what I was saying is that I like when my future clients would come to me with a lot of objections and say, no, this is what I heard, because it meant that at least they had some kind of an inkling as to wanting to know more about it and saying, listen, I get it. There might be something I don't understand. And I think that's one of the biggest ones. Well, let me ask you a loaded question. Is there anyone that you can think of that doesn't need life insurance?
I would say there's always a slight need for life insurance, but there's an extent. For example, if you're a single income earning household, you've got 5 kids, a wife, and your parents are dependent on you as well, then you really, really need life insurance. If you're an 18-year-old maybe, or a 21-year-old with their first job without any debts living at home, then less of a need for life insurance.
But it's interesting. You said less of, didn't you?
Yeah, I don't think there's ever not a need for life insurance. I mean, trying to think of the scenarios, if you literally had no family, nothing to pay for, no debts, then maybe you don't really need it. You've got some money in the bank, and that money would go over to your next of kin, whoever, and they pay outstanding payments. But I guess that would probably be the only situation. But the funny thing is, I've never come across that profile before. I had an interesting one. Yeah.
If you want to talk about cultural differences, right? In my years as a financial professional dealing specifically in life insurance, when you talk about that generational wealth, and when people hear the term generational wealth, they think of passing down millions. Generational wealth is meaning you don't pass down any debt. It means you don't have to have a car sale or a bake sale when grandma dies. It means they don't have to even consider selling any of the things that their family has. Yeah. So get this, when it came to generational wealth, you know the stereotype of somebody who may not need life insurance? The wealthiest clients I had, they would buy a life insurance policy on their kid a week after the kid was born. And by the time the kid was 20, it was paid off, paying, $10, $50 a month. But that money would then be used later in life to pay for their grandkids' stuff when they died. And they would just do generational skipping.
Yeah.
When granddad died, his kids had money because they had jobs and no debt. But then his kids, his grandchildren, they'd use that money for their education, or my personal favorite. I remember working with a client, had no kids, who, and I'm gonna use a term that is incorrect. Okay, I'm going to use a term that is wrong. He was a stereotypically white person. And he said in his family, even though he had no children, of course you get life insurance, because when you die, if you don't have any kids, you give the money as a donation back to either your university or your local religious institution. And I'm not going to discuss what religion he is, because that's not important. And I would tell that to my clients, and it would blow their mind. He said, well, wait a minute. They would say, wait a minute, if you don't have any children and no responsibilities, why do you need to even have it? And I would say in his community, they would just give it to their religious institution or to their school. Boosters, people giving money back to the universities. And he's like, but there's no reason not to. And it was, oh, hold on a second. Check this out. Oh my goodness. Can you read that? Read that for me, Michael.
The new life insurance in the US is just Darko fund, unfortunately.
You know what? I wish that he was lying. I wish I could laugh with you.
That is really sad. I mean, personally, if it was myself who passed away, I wouldn't feel like I need to, or my family would need to have to ask people to pay for my funeral and make things easier. That's my responsibility.
Yeah. It's grisly when you see that come across your Facebook. Hey, granddad died and we need money to pay off the coroner and we got to get him buried. We're trying to get up $10,000. Now, $10,000 is a lot of money. If you're thinking about buying a Christmas present, it's not a lot of money when somebody dies.
Yeah, not at all.
And you see people in a situation where they don't have it, or they do have it, but that money is for their children's education. It's just, good morning, reigning woman. Well, there are some lies that people believe about life insurance that we want to dispel some of the myths of and kind of fill it in with truth. Michael, I don't know if you know Reigning Woman. She is awesome. She's someone, I go to her channel, and you go there to kind of relax. And when you want something a lot less caffeinated and aggressive is what I'm doing, and the conversations that I have, she's great to come on and have as someone who I love to chat with. But if everybody took 5 minutes, because the cool thing about YouTube is there's enough room for everybody, this is her channel. As you can see, she's a lot less high stress and high maintenance than I am. Good place to go if you but definitely check her out. Definitely check her out.
I'm about to subscribe to her channel now and have a look later.
What I'll do is I'll put her link. I'll put it here. Let me put my coffee down. Notice the Mr. Responsible with the lid on his coffee near the computer, because that was something I got burned on once when I was young, and I decided never again.
I love her logo, by the way. That's fantastic.
Yeah, the meditating woman with the stones.
Yeah. Yeah, I just followed or subscribed. And actually, just while we're on the topic of YouTube, I've got a YouTube channel as well, which is more so to inform the people out there, mainly, I guess, expats and digital nomads who don't really know about finance. So from life insurance through to investment, potential risks financially from living abroad, and just break things down in really easy terms. So you could always find me there on Expat Money Moves.
Let me see, because you have Expat Money Moves is your is a regular website as well, correct?
Yeah. So again, that's just to offer services for anyone that maybe needs to know a bit more about it.
Okay, because
speak on, sorry.
Yeah, you know, I remember seeing your, and by the way, to everybody watching who knows that money is my favorite subject, that I like making money, and I do a lot of different legal things to make money business-wise. I'm not making a commission off talking to you guys about my buddy. I'm not making any money at all off showing this to you. I'm giving this to you because I want you to have this information. Yeah, I remember looking at that logo and thinking, that picture is creepy as fuck, dude.
That's actually based on the real photo that was taken of me, just turned into a character.
Yeah, you know what the uncanny valley is? Dude, your eyes look dead inside. We can do better. Now, I like the I like the logo of the inside money, the swirling tumult of stuff, but yeah, that's genuinely a scary looking picture, dude.
I appreciate the honest feedback. That's good to know.
Yeah, and you look, dude, your skull looks like you weigh 200 kilos in that picture. You're
Yeah, I lost a lot of weight since that picture. that's bad.
Here's what investing in dollars, in Colombian pesos, currency risk, Colombian tax update. This man is giving you the game for free, especially for expats. I don't know why people aren't. I don't think you're doing a good enough job showing this to people, because you have a responsibility to get this information to people who don't have it. I told you a long time ago, guys like us who get to lead extraordinary lives have an ethical responsibility to show people it can be done. That if me, I can do it, and you can do it, and you're doing a great job here. Yeah. Oh yeah, we're gonna have to. Yeah, we're gonna definitely have to come back to that.
Yeah, definitely. That's what I put out. Just it's more of a project. I started to learn all these things. I started back when I was studying as well. I was just wondering, why did I not know this when I was in school? Why did they not teach it in school? And when I have general chit chat with my friends and family, and they don't know certain things, I just feel, I just need to put that information out there.
Well, here's the thing. I can safely say to you that all the things I learned about, let's say, life insurance as a vehicle for transferring wealth, and in the state that I did a lot of mine in, I could do it tax-free. Yeah. If you put me in front of a high school classroom of 17-year-olds and gave me 3 months, I could train them to be as knowledgeable as I was through my entire course. Because one of the things that shocked me when I took my Series 6 and the Series 63, I've noticed that it wasn't as hard. I thought maybe I was just being arrogant. saying it couldn't be that hard. Let me tell you something. It wasn't that hard, and the insult is that anyone could have learned that. That's it.
It's true. The information is there. It's simple. It's just people don't have the opportunity sometimes to learn it, or just don't know about it to go and search for the answers.
No one wants you to have that information. No one wants you to know that putting a little bit away later in something like life insurance. I'll tell you one of the lies that I'm told by people who I learned I'm not going to be angry at. I'm not going to say bad things about. Like, well, if I get life insurance, that means, man, they're going to die. If I get life insurance with my husband or my wife, that means they're just going to die one day. And I remember that thought of, aren't you going to die anyway? I mean, my mentor and my financial professional who mentored me, a man named Jeff, I'm going to do an entire talk about him. He said, what you tell somebody when they do that is you look them in the eye and you say, listen, I just read a study done by a peer-reviewed group, and it said that statistically 100% of people will die. And the only choice you have is whether or not their death cripples your family or not.
Yeah, that's a very good point. You always have to be prepared for the worst case scenario. I've always liked to compare it to cell phones. Whenever you buy a cell phone, at least in the UK, you always get the option to buy insurance, which most people take. And it's not that you plan to drop your phone or you plan to break it, you plan to walk out and get robbed, but you just want to be protected in the worst case scenario. And of course, it's nowhere near as serious as losing a loved one, or your loved one's losing you, but it's just one of the most real to life examples I could use.
You know what's funny? Neil deGrasse Tyson, one of the most foremost minds in the world right now. He talked to Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
And he was on the show, and he had this really fancy iPhone.
Mm-hmm.
And he talked about how he doesn't really have a case on his phone. And he said, but it's such an expensive phone. Don't you think that little bit of kind of insurance against it breaking would be a good deal? And he gave some bullshit reason. And sure enough, he had to go on social media the other day, a couple weeks back, and he says, yeah, dropped my phone, broke it. It's going to get you at some point. It's going to get you at some point.
It's true. And you never prepared for it. You never planned for it to happen, but you could be prepared for if it does happen.
My grandmother was 103 when she died. Totally wasn't ready for it. 101 rather. And I totally wasn't ready for it.
Mm.
My father was in hospice when he died. I totally wasn't ready for it. And you know what? When I finally croak, I don't think I'm going to be ready for that either. You know what? Right now you're in Colombia. I'm in Brazil. And I want to talk a little bit about, now we have something here called machismo culture, where it's this very male-dominated society. And we often hear about the terrible negative effects, but I do want to tell you something interesting. Most of the men that I know, like me and like you on the path that you're on, manage to find a little bit of financial security early through the business that they're in. And a lot of them then decide, now that I've got the other part taken care of, I'm going to go find a wife. And often these wives are 10, 15, 20 years younger than them. And one of the conversations I had with a buddy of mine, and I said, this is a very interesting way to leverage my machismo with guys who don't think it's important, because I'm an advocate for life insurance, even though I don't make any money selling it anymore. I'm not even in that business anymore. And you know what? Hold on, let me do this. Just for everybody who wants to take a quick look, I want to go back to, let's see. Let's see, where was it? How come I can't find? I'm looking for your, while we're talking about this, while I talk about how I managed to leverage machismo, is what I said there. Now look at that. That's a beautiful, beautiful picture right there, my friend. Did you have a professional come by and set up your lighting for you?
Not set up the lighting, but she came around with her DSLR and took the shot. That was actually in a hotel's working space, co-working space.
I want everybody to definitely take a look at that. You know, tell them I sent you.
Yeah.
This is what I said, and this is something you may be able to leverage when you talk to these guys about machismo culture. It says, well, wait a minute. You have a wife who's younger than you are, right? And we're talking the stereotypical male head of the household, the stereotype, but it holds true for, 80% of the time. It's true 100% of the time. I said, listen, your wife's going to live at least 10, 15 years longer than you, right? Right. Okay. So let me ask you a quick question. Let's say you die at 65, 70. Let's say you're living hard and fast and having fun and leading the life of a man who made the money he's going to make, and he's going to spend the rest of his life living an extended childhood. And she supports you, and she says, whatever you want to do is fine. You travel the world, and you burn out 70, 75 years old. She's still only 60. Do you really want to send her out into the workforce at 60? Do you really want a 60-year-old woman who gave you her best years to suddenly have to step back and think, holy shit, what do I do now? But then I gave him the opposite side, which is arguably even worse. I said, but what happened if you live for 5 more years? And while you two are paragliding off a cliff in South America, you have a fucking heart attack and you kick right there at the end of that trip. And she's holding you in her arms and she's crying. Now you've got a 30-year-old woman with no source of income. Do you know what happens to women who have no source of income and they're 30 and their husband provided everything for them? Where do you think she's going to end up? What is she going to do? Wait tables? What is she going to do? Go back to school? She's screwed. So if you're going to play that macho role and say, listen, this woman right here, she does what I say. She jumps when I say jump and I take care of all her needs. That's great. But your responsibility doesn't end when you die. And a lot of them, they couldn't get, hold on, Reigning Woman. Let's see. Oh no, there she is. She said, my mom had the right kind of insurance plan and investments when she transitioned. I gave her a luxuriant homegoing, as humble and honorable, paid for everything up front, headstone too. That's an amazing feeling. I had my dad put in crystal, and I had it in one place in my house, and I got a little light under it, and it would shine this disco ball light under the crystal with my dad's ashes in it. And people would always go, what is that? And I'd go, oh, hey, check it out. And I'd throw it to them, and they'd catch it like, that's my dad's ashes. And they wouldn't know what to do with it because my dad he had this awful sense of humor. That's something he totally would have loved.
Yeah. I wouldn't know how to react in that situation if I had to catch
and like if a woman came over at one of my parties or something, I'd say she'd be holding that, and I'd take it back and I'd say, well, do you believe in the afterlife? And she goes, oh, of course. I'd rub it on her tits and I'd say, hey, you believe in the afterlife? Give him a little action. He's been dead for a while. It's hilarious. Laughing. Because here's the thing, you don't know what's coming afterwards. You don't know. And you don't want it to be a stressful thing for the people that you love. You don't want to. I remember my very first client. It was a poor woman who worked at a 24-hour convenience store, who is a referral from somebody I went to school with. She was my first client. She was 60 years old. She worked at a convenience store, and she had just buried her sister, who was 5 years older than her at 65. And she cried. She said, my children didn't make it in life. I just buried my sister. And this still hurts. She said she couldn't, and it's interesting with all the clients that I work with, you remember certain people, and she was my first and arguably the least wealthy person I'd ever dealt with, but she meant some of the most to me. She said, I couldn't afford to buy my sister a new dress and new earrings to bury her in because we didn't have that kind of money. And she said, can you get me any kind of life insurance policy? This is a 60-year-old woman for whom insurance would be more expensive, who was not in the best of health. And I remember I went tooth and nail. I called my office. I said, listen, we have to do something. And they're like, she's old. It's going to cost this much. I fought. And they're like, why are you fighting for somebody that's going to pay, a $20 a month policy and blah, blah, blah. I said, there's no such thing as a small client. First of all, don't insult me that way. And two, I said, she needs it. And she said, all I want is enough money for my kids to be able to buy me a new dress, some new earrings, and put me in a decent box. How sad was that? That was their family financial situation.
That's extremely sad. Extremely sad. Yeah, I think that's things like that are a wake-up call. It's a shame that it came so late, but then hopefully that lesson would be passed down to her children, even if they're not the most successful, but to put things in place and understand the importance.
Oh yeah. You better believe I had an unpleasant conversation with both of her kids. And I said, listen, if you want to have life insurance through me, I'm glad to do it. But I want you to know I watched your mother cry. Because remember when your aunt died and you guys had to bury her in one of her old dresses? I said, that hurt your mother, and her biggest fear is not being able to be put away with dignity. I was kind of angry. I got to tell you, again, that machismo culture, when I looked at her son, I'm like, you're a grown fucking man with no children, yet your mother is living in fear like that. And I, you know, as I get older, I become more and more conservative. I become more and more old fashioned. We can have another chat later. My buddy David brought this up to me. He says, do you realize you're becoming more and more right wing as you age? And I said, fuck, man, I think I am. Because when you look at the way the world plays out and the certain responsibilities, and everybody knows I'm hard on men, especially men who want privileges in life, with money, with women, you know, with success. It's like, you got to pay the cost to be the boss. But they don't want that. I'm sorry, I'm not going to listen. YusefWateef, unfortunately, the most common financial problem I see is that people don't plan for time. We undershoot how long we may or may not live. You're right. You're right. We know we're all going to bite one day. We just don't know when it's going to be. And we don't even know if it's going to be our fault. I don't lift weights because I think it's going to make me live to 100. It's the time I do have. I want to be able to run, punch, kick, fight, fuck healthily. So if I do die tomorrow, it's okay. And you still had fun for your brother and I. Brilliant. You came from somebody who actually got it. They understand how the game worked.
She was prepared.
That's wonderful. Yeah. I remember the company called me after my dad's ashes had been put into the crystal, and they said, we used a significant amount of the ashes in the crystal, and we have some left. And of course, they want to see if I want like a necklace or something else with it. And I said, no, that's enough. And they said, okay, what would you like to do with the rest of the ashes? We can store them here in case you change your mind. I was like, no, that's okay. She said, okay, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm not going to dispose of them. I'm going to call you again in a week to confirm that you really do want me to dispose of the ashes. And in the United States, at least, I don't know how it is there, you can't just ship cremains. Like, you have to be a licensed person. It's kind of like, there are extraordinarily strict rules. It's easier to ship a gun in an airplane than it is to ship a dead body or any parts of remains. There are strict rules, even if it's cremated person. There are strict rules on who can and cannot receive those. And I said to her, well, I don't really need you to ship them to me. I don't want to go through that hassle. I said, you can you can dispose of them. And I remember she said, okay, we'll dispose of them respectfully. And I laughed and I said, so tell me the truth. Is it going to be the toilet or the dumpster? And she started laughing.
Your sense of humor.
I get it. You know, my dad was a 50-50 parent. 50% of the time, he was this brilliant, well-read person with a belligerent sense of humor. The other half, he was a guy who got drafted into Vietnam, and it gave him a ruthless alcoholism habit that totally fucked his life. Don't get me wrong. Some of the decisions were his, but that 50% of the time when he wasn't that funny guy that told awkward jokes. And BK from Rocky, we don't talk about this enough. I believe that we need to have insurance on our children too. People died. I want to give you a testimony from a friend of mine. We had a situation where every Monday we would all get together in the office for meetings and talk about what you did the week before business-wise and what you're looking forward to and if anybody else in the office could help you. There was a guy who stood up crying, and he said, when he got into the business his first year, the first thing he did, which everybody does, he got insurance with his family and his close friends. His friend had a 5-year-old son. The husband and the wife had no problem getting insurance, but he said, we should get insurance for the son too. And they're like, he's 5, don't worry about it. And he said, okay, we'll try again in a couple of years. And this is where it gets bad. Like hundreds of children in America every year, mom and dad were in the living room. They thought the son was walking into the kitchen, maybe to get an apple. He walks out the back door, falls into the swimming pool, drowns to death, like that. And he had to look his friend in the eye and beg his forgiveness. And the friend said, why are you crying? He said, I should have fought you. I should have fought you. The people in my office told me to go back today and fight you on getting insurance on your child. And I didn't have the courage to do it because I didn't want to lose your friendship over life insurance. And he said that one of the reasons he became one of the top life insurance professionals in our company, he said every day he carries that. Every day he carries knowing he couldn't have prevented that child's death, but to see his best friend and his best friend's wife lose a child, because you never come back from that, for the record. He said his friend will never be okay. Man.
I could imagine. That's just a difficult situation to go through.
It's taboo to discuss life insurance, but as Yusef said, we're not going to make it out of life in the end. Here's the crazy part. It's only taboo to discuss life insurance to people who are have-nots. The people who have, they talk about money and life insurance all the time.
Yeah, I mean, in the UK, when you learn to be a financial planner, financial advisor, when you're studying, you're always taught to cover insurance first. That's how to best treat your client with your client's best interest. Make sure that you're covered with everything before you start looking into investments and so on.
Well, get this. Did you know in the United States, if I get insurance on, let's say your mom and your dad, and one of your parents dies, and they find out that the life insurance policy was enormous. Like when they do the math, let's say the policy should have been this amount, but I actually had life insurance and I had your parents paying for 4 times that amount. I cannot have any legal repercussions. There is nothing anyone can say about me selling too much life insurance to your family. But if they review my paperwork and they find out I decided I wanted to put more money into a mutual fund because that was sexy and not enough into the life insurance, I can go to court. I could lose everything and maybe be prosecuted for it. Because there's no excuse. If the person has only $1 to their name and you do the math, if they have no money left over for fancy investments, you still give them the life insurance.
Yeah.
Is it sexy? Nope. Does it make you a whole lot of money? Nope. But the ethical responsibility, and we call it the fiduciary responsibility, is you give them the life insurance because that's what they're going to need most. So you can, and that's the interesting part. When they said during the first week of our training, do you know you can never be held liable if someone's dad or mom or granddad or kid died? They go, wait a minute. We didn't need this much life insurance because it will never happen. No one will have you come to their house with that check and the envelope for you to say, hey, do you want me to hold? Because there are a lot of times when they'll say, don't give this to me now.
Yeah.
They'll say, I'll say, I have this in my pocket. Do you want me to give you a check? Do you want me to put it into your bank account? Or do you want me to disperse it? Or do you just want me to come back next week and talk about it? When they look at it and they go, we were paying for that much. And I go, yeah, this means you'll be okay for a while. And they go, like when you see somebody, I'll tell you, one of the rules we had in our office is you can get help from a lot of different life insurance guys in the office, especially the older guys. But there's one thing nobody would do for you that you had to do yourself, is deliver a policy. If one of your clients, no matter how sad it is, if one of your clients dies, the only person that's going to go to that house and look at his crying widow and look at his children in the eye, it's got to be you. And quite frankly, nobody wants to go on that mission with you. That's the least, look at this. We need to have you talking about this on your show as well. I think you should invite Michael over and talk to you, because clearly you guys have it together and there's somebody somewhere up the chain in your family, reigning woman, that cared enough to make sure everybody understood. There are 2 basic types of life insurance, and I want to get some of the lies and bullshit out of the way, because the question I'm always asked is, but Michael, which is better, term or whole life?
Yeah, that question comes up a lot, and I think it really does depend on your personal circumstances. So I always think whole of life is best because you get a savings policy with it, and you basically cover for life as long as you pay those premiums. Whereas term of life, I understand why certain people get it in certain situations, such as if they were to be abroad for a certain amount of time, and let's say a very dangerous location, and they're maybe on an assignment for work, whether that's military or otherwise, then I could understand why they would have a higher term insurance for a specific amount of time.
So are you telling me that there is no absolute answer, that there is no which is better? It all depends on your situation? My goodness.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, that's the sure answer. Everybody wants some absolute answer instead of working with a professional that just says, let me look at your situation and figure it. Did you ever have somebody that was mad that you didn't try to sell them something the first time you talked to them?
Yes, I've actually had that before. I've had that before.
I had clients that I would sit down and I'd write down all their information and write down their family situation and their income, all the stuff you need to write up a quality life insurance policy. And they'd say, okay, so what do you think we need? And I'd go, well, I just got the information. I want to go back to my office with my calculator and my computer and look at the options that I have that are best for you. And they'd say, well, don't you have something you suggest right now? And I'm like, I need to analyze their family situation. And then I'm going to have a second set of eyes look it over in my office to make sure I got it right. Well, the other guy, as soon as we got done, he said, we should buy this. And I said, then that guy's an idiot or a con artist.
Yeah.
You're not going to tell me in 1 hour he discerned and crunched all the information necessary. But what do we want? Everybody wants a turnkey solution. YusefWateef, how can I travel the world like you? Easy. You start by working in a situation where you get an education and a career behind you. Oh, YusefWateef, what kind of life insurance should I get? Well, let me give you Michael's number and you can sit down and talk with him about it. But everybody wants that. Oh my goodness. Hey, it looks like Raining wants to chat with you, I guess, and she's interested in talking to you about what you do as well. Maybe on her channel and introduce, because I want to applaud her family for having.
Yeah, I'm pretty impressed by what I'm reading here. I'm curious to know what her background is and how her family decided to put all that together.
Yeah, so what I would do after we all get done talking. Oh, by the way, and I almost forgot to do this for everybody watching. Critically important. Click the thumbs up button and click the subscribe button. This is how I meet people. I don't make money as a YouTuber. I make money, and for everybody who's watching this, and I always want to show people what I do, because I don't want you to think that I'm making ad revenue or anything like that. If it happens, great, but that's not what I'm in here for. I'm in here because I try to bring the goodies and the good people that I meet around the world to a lot of my friends and my extended friends on the internet. I want to show you guys what I do in case anyone here needs it. I'm an editor, resume writer, ghostwriter, English expert. People bring me a book they've written, not always in English, that needs to be done in university level English. That's what I do. You have a newspaper, a journal, a website that needs to be written or rewritten in university level English. That's what they hire me for. You need a resume written from scratch or an updated resume. That's what people hire me for. Anything having to do with things like that. I also coach people on public speaking. And catch me on LinkedIn. You'll find I'm the same person everywhere. There are no pseudonyms. This is really who I am. I put my reputation on the line every time I talk to people. And I don't want you to look at my resume first. This is what I tell everybody. I want you to go all the way down. And I want you to look at my recommendations. I want everybody to first take the time to just look at what other people say about me. Look at what other business professionals say about me and the level of quality that I bring to the office. And then make the decision as to whether or not you can help me. And I want everybody to share this information. I want everybody to share this on either their Facebook or their Twitter or their Instagram, or my personal favorite, I tell people, share it on your Tinder profile. Why is that? What you do is you say, listen, if we can't have a conversation at least this deep, maybe we shouldn't meet. We already know we want to fuck, right? So what are we going to talk about afterwards? Let's talk about this guy, YusefWateef. Good morning, T. Kelly. Hope you're having a great morning, and I hope you can go back and catch it from the beginning as well. Joni, don't know much about life insurance. Forgive this question is lame. I've heard that whole life insurance is a ripoff. Why do some say that? Would it be better to put that money spent into an investment? Bang, bang. You know what? I'm gonna sit back, drink my coffee. Michael, be nice, Joni, my friend.
It's funny because I literally sent you a message. I do have a meeting literally in 4 minutes that I need to run off to.
Well, good. You got 3 minutes to answer this question.
Okay. So why is whole of life a ripoff? It was a question. Let me go back to it.
Is whole life insurance a ripoff? And wouldn't that money be better spent putting it just in a regular investment?
Okay. So what would you have? Would you not have insurance, Joni?
But we don't have time for a quick back and forth because I know you've got a lot of stuff to do. When someone says it's better to put money into an investment and not have life insurance, how do you counter that?
Always counter that in regards to what I said earlier, that you need to have insurance as a basis, right? You need to build from the insurance onwards. So make sure that you're covered, your family's covered, and then start looking at investing. And then we could go into other insurance beyond whole of life insurance or just life insurance in general, and also look at your asset insurance or your income insurance, because you really need to protect that income and what you have already before you start looking to build, in my opinion.
And I think that's a great answer, because the reality is Not as opposed to insurance, whole versus life. I'll even give you the short and dirty answer, Joni. Neither one is better, like you said earlier, but the unfortunate reality is investments go up and down. If you put your money consistently in an investment, and when you die, after it goes through probate, after it goes through taxes, and that amount of money is greater than what you would have had of life insurance, awesome. But if you're willing to gamble your future, the future of the children you leave behind, or the husband that you leave behind, or that your mother who or father who may die and leave that behind with you. When I was a financial professional, I would tell people all the time, investments are great. If you can write down the day and the time you die, I can write a targeted investment that's going to make sure you have more money. But if you die at the wrong day, you're totally fucked. If you die at the wrong day or the right day, but the tax laws have changed and now they're taxing your investments differently, so the money that's left over is less than would have had in a simple basic life insurance plan with whole life, you're fucked. Because whole life insurance is something everybody realizes they need when you realize the durability of the policies from a quality company, and when you realize that at a certain age, when death becomes a lot more real than it is for a lot of us watching right now for ourselves, and you wish you'd had a little something that was more, not just transferable, but stable and served two purposes. I think this might have to be the first half of a meeting. I think we're gonna have to do this again, Brother Michael.
Yeah, I'm so sorry that I need to jump out and all of you.
Hey, listen, you're a
yeah,
businessman, and that's why I love you. So listen, you click off. I'm gonna stay here for a quick second with the team. Thank you so much. And I'm gonna tell everybody, I want everyone to make sure you go to his to his channel as well, because he talks about a lot more than just life insurance. All right.
All right, perfect. All right, thanks, Yusef. It's always a pleasure. And take care, everyone. Thanks for watching.
Bye.
Bye.
Let me tell you something. Michael is investments mean nothing if your folks won't bury you with it, in my opinion. Hey, Yusef and Ahmad, please add Michael's YouTube channel link in the chat for subbing. I couldn't find it. Cool. Let me put that, hold on. Let me put that right here. Let's see if I can find, okay, there it is. Because Michael doesn't just lead the life of a professional insurance expert, he leads the life of an expat as well. There, it's in the comments. Everybody go ahead and check that guy out. Art of Becoming More. Hey, how are you? I hope you're having a great morning so far. We got off to an early start today. You know, today I came out guns blazing. I decided we were gonna do some edutainment today. It's not as much fun as a lot of the other discussions that I've had. It's not as sexy as talking about whether or not people are monogamous. It's not as much fun as talking about Brazilians and being Latin like we did last night. But this is edutainment. This is what people need. These are the information that I wish. I mean, it's kind of like a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. I have to slide stuff like this in so people will catch some of these goodies on the way. What I will also say is I want everybody to make sure you share this somewhere. Make sure you've already clicked the thumbs up and the subscribe button, and I really appreciate it. You guys are what makes this a lot of fun. It's Saturday. I've combined my morning Brazilian coffee thunderbolt with a great conversation. I gotta run. Leave information in the comments on things that you guys want to talk about a little bit later in the future. I love you all, and I hope everybody has a great Saturday.